In this video you will learn how the new character CatNap, who will appear in the third chapter of Poppy Playtime, is connected to the prototype. And also thanks to this information you and I will reflect on how the third chapter can end or what events can happen thanks to the connection of these characters. Like the situations of the reveal of the purple monster's identity from Chapter 3, the answer to our question today is taken from the ARG on Chapter 3. You probably remember this screenshot right here. I thought at first that it was some nameless character that was somehow related to the prototype. This boy, like many other children, were candidates for playtime experiments. In our case, experiment 1188 CatNap. When the Playtime Corporation was still active, Theodore Grambell gained notoriety among the staff for his association with an imaginary friend who seemed to encourage him to sabotage the Playtime Corporation.
Just kidding.
One day, Theodore was instructed by 1006 to open a service door at Playcare using a stolen grab pack and a green hand attachment. Following the prototype's instructions, Theodore attempted to open the door. It is possible that 1006 intended to free the orphan children. However, because Theodore was too young and didn't know how to use the grab pack, he ended up getting electrocuted by an electric shock. Joel Sinclair and Thomas Clark heard about the incident in a telephone conversation and concluded that Theodore's imaginary friend was to blame. They specifically mentioned that two people were needed to service the service door. Thomas himself claimed to have seen Theodore's imaginary friend. Despite the boy's injury, similar incidents continued, leading to the creation of CatNap. You've got that right. Theodore Grambell ended up being the subject of experiment 1188. You probably noticed that in all this story debuted two Playtime employees. One of them is already familiar to us. Thomas Clark, a Playtime employee who was diagnosed with cancer, and because of it, he was part of an experiment to transfer his mind into the body of a toy, the dinosaur Brawn. The second employee, whose name is Joel Sinclair, is a new character who debuted just in the ARG of the third chapter of Poppy Playtime. He is essentially the head counselor at Playcare. From what information I've been able to dig up about him, he is the head counselor at Playcare, the factory's underground orphanage. He first appeared in the transcript submission document with Thomas Clark, where they discussed an incident involving the 7-year-old orphan Theodore Grambell. Joel Sinclair is a competent and qualified individual, given his career as a licensed professional counselor, LPC, and his position as Playcare's head counselor. He concerns himself with the well-being of the orphans at Playcare, most notably Theodore Grambell. It's currently unclear if he's fully aware about the company's intentions for the orphans, as he knew about the device that burned Theodore, and that the boy didn't possess the mental capacity to understand it during his escape from Home Sweet Home. It is likely Sinclair worked closely with both Claire Harper and Matthew Wazen, giving both of them close working responsibilities of the children in Playcare. It is likely Sinclair worked closely with both Claire Harper and Matthew Wazen, given both of their close working responsibilities of the children in Playcare. Sinclair was a co-worker of Thomas Clark and seems to have been close friends with him, given how he refers to him by his first name only, talks rather casually, if worried, with him, and tells him he would meet him at lunch. The most important moment, when the experiment was fully completed, we got CatNap. But his attraction to the prototype was not lost. That part of Theodore's mind remained and only grew stronger. Because now he's not just a child, he's a new toy that has a rather dangerous weapon in the form of poppy gas. He does smell like poppy after all, at least what he's emitting is red poppy. Why it smells like lavender according to the picture is not entirely clear. Lavender, of course, has a calming effect, as we all know. For example, 6 drops of lavender essential oil in a bath and your body can relax. Now, let's move on to perhaps the most interesting part of this video, namely the theory of how the connection between the prototype and CatNap might play a role in the third chapter of Poppy Playtime. Let's just say that CatNap is essentially a pawn of the prototype. Judging by the way that he's maniacally at his behest, we can assume that he'll be doing a variety of dirty work. It could be as much about building up a prototype out of various toy parts, which may be hinted at by the giant statue we originally called a prototype. CatNap goes around the orphanage and finds some unwanted toys and uses them as some giant statue of the prototype, or again it's a construct that's just going to be used later on to bring the prototype to life. I'm strongly beginning to suspect that by the end of the third chapter there may be a different moment than the one with Mommy, where at the end we somehow deal with CatNap. Or maybe exposure to his red gas could lead to such a dire outcome that the road between us and CatNap could eventually diverge for a while, meaning we'd end up in some other section of Playtime but CatNap would still be alive. I don't know why, but that's the theory that popped into my head. Because it's the same pattern every time. Admit it. And if the only follower of the prototype remains alive, then at the end of the game, or at least at the moment of the clash with him, he can help him in some way. So we deal with CatNap first. And with the prototype, this storyline sounds much more interesting. Well, let's not get too far into the endgame. I'm just saying that to give you an idea. Why this is the ending. Ending in my head. You and I both know that the horror part of Chapter 3 will be directly related to the glitches that will be from the red gas at some point. CatNap can appear from dark corners in different guises, as was shown in the children's drawings where there was no specific form of CatNap. And other hallucinations may already be connected to some past of the protagonist. Why not? Because first of all, red gas will influence on the mind of the person, and the mind can recollect various situations because of his past and as if to make them more terrible and worse. Here let's imagine a situation: you had some very sad moment in your life, CatNap comes and spews red gas on you, and this situation again you reproduce, but in even worse form. Aren't you scared? Of course you are, because not only was it so sad, now it's twice as sad. Perhaps the scariest thing that can happen while the red gas is acting on the player, or any other character in the game, is that they become vulnerable to other things that happen in the factory. That is, any monster, and even CatNap himself, who originally released the gas. It will be very easy for him to catch this target, because it will be concerned not that he is approaching. It's what's going on inside his head. By the way, the concentration of gas that's embedded in the CatNap is a pretty safe dose. Imagine what would happen if that dose was lethal. I've got a theory that this concentration of gas is in certain places where we have to go to overcome the clouds of red gas that are a level lower down to the player. So, roughly speaking, this gas has been around for a long time. And it's not trying to run out in any way, so these clouds have not only remained, but they've become even more concentrated. And maybe even more concentrated than those used by CatNap to put children to sleep and other purposes. That's why we'll need a gas mask. Not only that, we won't always be able to overcome these gas clouds, because it can't be that they'll always be below, and in the clash with CatNap, namely the final one where we'll either run away from him or overcome some of our fears under the influence of the gas. We'll probably use a gas mask to more consciously perceive the environment until the gas is gone and CatNap appears in its true form. What are your thoughts on how CatNap might reveal himself in the third chapter of Poppy Playtime? What interesting mechanics with it can be, and what plot twists do you expect? Be sure to write, because I'm interested in reading your thoughts, and that's all for now. Don't worry. Soon we'll get 100% information from the developer, because it's already December, which means that we'll get the trailer of the third chapter quite soon. So in order not to miss this event, be sure to subscribe to my channel if you still haven't or haven't done so. I know that a very large percentage of my viewers watch me without subscribing. So let's fix it so that you and I can stay up to date on all the news. And not just news, because there's a lot of interesting content related to other games here too. Thank you for watching my video. Give it a like if you liked it, to promote the recommendations. I would be grateful for a subscription with a bell and a comment under the video. Good luck to you, dear viewers.